you. Okay, well, welcome everybody here. We are delighted to have you. Thank you for joining us for our 2023 Self-Direction Virtual Conference Series. We are very excited today to talk about emerging workforce practices for self-direction. My name is Molly Morris, and I'm a Vice President in Applied Self-Direction, and I'll be moderating today's session. Before we begin, I do just want to go over a few housekeeping items so you know how we're going to run things today. Your audio and video have been automatically turned off, and just due to the volume of attendees, please remain muted with your video off during the session so it's easier to see and hear the speakers who are with us today. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to submit those via the chat box. We will address as many of your comments as possible at the end of the session. The session is being recorded and will be available on our website following today's session. And live closed captions for the entire conference series is available courtesy of our premier sponsor, Aviro. So thank you to Aviro for making that possible. So with all those logistics out of the way, let me just say I'm really honored to moderate today's session, to hear from a variety of wonderful experts speaking to some of their great ideas and approaches to improving workforce shortage and challenges for self-direction specifically. I know we are all well aware that the workforce crisis has taken its toll, even in self-direction, where we do have greater flexibility for hiring. It's still a tremendous challenge at this point. So I will say at Applied Self-Direction, we are really working in earnest to support projects that will help us better understand the scope of the workforce shortage and its impacts on self-direction. So, I'm happy to share, for instance, that Alleviate Health has generously sponsored new efforts to better understand the impact of those workforce issues. And we really look forward to sharing more about some of our work to better understand the scope of the problem. But today, we are really focusing on innovative strategies to address the crisis, things people are doing now to try and make it better. So we have a wonderful group of speakers who are going to present about 3 different novel approaches to addressing workforce. So we've got about 15 minutes for each group to share about their approach, and then we will have time at the end for your discussion and questions. So with that said, to start us off, I'm very pleased to introduce 2 team members, Amy Yedley and Anthony Vasquez. So Amy is the project lead for the Collaborative for Citizen-Directed Supports New Jersey, and she's a certified supports broker in New Jersey and Pennsylvania. And Anthony is a self-advocate and has been with the Collaborative for Citizen-Directed Supports New Jersey for 3 years. He continues to share his experiences living with cerebral palsy and discusses home aids, college, and joining the workforce with a disability. So Amy and Anthony, take it away. We can't wait to hear from you.
Thank you, Molly. Anthony, would you like to introduce yourself first, or would you like to?
I'll go first. Hi, my name is Anthony Vasquez. I'm a self-advocate. I've been working with the Collaborative now for a while, and I'm glad to be here. Amy?
Thank you. My name is Amy Yedley. I'm the Director of Projects and Innovation for Values into Action. Values into Action is a founding member of the Collaborative for Citizen-Directed Supports in New Jersey, which is an organization dedicated to expanding opportunities for people with disabilities to fully participate in the design, delivery, and evaluation of their services with the support they need from whom they want. Next slide, please. We're here to talk to you today about the interactive map, which was created by the Collaborative, and we were the award winners for the grand prize. They're the Administration for Community Living's Blazing New Trails for Community-Based Support Professionals, which was essentially a contest that they put out to help solve the DSP crisis across the country. And we were delighted that the interactive map won, and we're going to talk to you about how that works today and show you an interactive map session webinar. Next slide, please. So our interactive map members are comprised of direct support professional agencies, support brokerage agencies, self-directed employees, self-advocates, and their family members, and essentially any provider or professional that is working within the disability community. Next slide, please.
Okay, the map is an easier way to help you find supports. Um, as you know, uh, um, it's really hard to find supports. So we're using the map to make it a little bit easier and faster to find someone or support. Um, in a minute, we're going to show you how easy it is to use this map. It's very simple to use, as you will see in a little while.
Thank you, Anthony. It's also free for users as well. Next slide, please. So support coordinators and support brokers are also able to use the map. It's an easy resource that people can share to connect individuals and families that are in need of support or requesting support. Once again, it is a free resource for people to use. You can advertise your listing and your request for support needs on the map at no cost. And it's also a tool that direct support professionals and self-directed employees can use to look for meaningful work that is available inside their communities right now. Next slide, please. So the interactive map can do some things, and there's some things it does not do for you. So it helps to advertise staffing needs and availability within your immediate community area. It also is a resource for people to find the supports that they need, and it enables staff and people in need of supports and their family members to be able to get in touch with each other without a third party connecting them or without having to go through an agency itself. What the map does not do is replace your support coordinator or a support broker. It doesn't enroll or train staff for you. It doesn't do background checks or things of that nature. And it does not connect people, it does not contact people for you. So essentially it's a bridge to connect people in need of supports for the people that are currently able to provide these supports within the community. Next slide, please. So here we're showing you the map legend, which is a preliminary to the next slide where we're going to get into an interactive map demonstration. So you'll see these different colored icons on the map. Hands holding a heart would be a qualified provider, a direct support professional agency that's requested to be listed on the map. A self-directed employee is a person that's walking, and then a person that's requesting supports or their family member will be a plus sign. Next slide, please. And then we're going to go to the collaborative.nj.org and we'll see an interactive map demonstration right now. And then this is our homepage. If you go at the top menu where it says interactive map, it'll take you to the map of New Jersey. And I should mention we're in the process of expanding the map. So if you are watching this from another state and you're interested in having this type of tool in your area or within your community or your state, please feel free to reach out to us and we'll share our contact information at the end of this presentation. And then you simply, if you're on your smartphone, you would use your fingers to expand the map, or if you're on a desktop, you can use your mouse to expand the map. And as you can see, it's being zoomed in and out. And let's say I am a direct support, I'm a self-directed employee and I'm looking to work with somebody in my area. You can open that map up and you can zoom really large and to see your county or community. But for the purpose of today, if you could just click on a plus sign so we could see that. Thank you so much. Right there, we see this is a person requesting supports. And if I'm a direct support professional agency or I'm a person that's a self-directed employee, I can email that person at the top with their contact information and see if we're a good fit. So this way that they'll be able to contact me or I'll be able to contact them directly if I'm a DSP or an SDE listed on the map and a person is in my area seeking supports, they can reach out to me. My contact information will be on there. Or if I'm a person seeking an opportunity of employment for a person that experiences a disability, I'll select the plus sign in my area and I'll reach out to them, send them an email, brief introduction of myself, and request a meeting and see if I'm the right fit for that person. There's also, if you look right below the map, it says contact agencies listed on the map. That's where you'll be able to access contact information, frequently asked questions will open to a document, And then glossary of terms. Each state uses terms interchangeably, like direct support professional. DSP is sometimes called different titles in different states. And so we help to explain what that is in New Jersey with those glossary of terms. Thank you. We can go back to the next slide, please. Thank you so much. And so while we were executing the map throughout the year of the contest for Administration for Community Living, we held roundtable sessions open to all stakeholders. And this is the feedback that we received from some of the stakeholders that attended. So a supports broker indicated that the map was a game changer. A self-advocate indicated that they're not a tech person and the map is really easy for them to use. A direct support professional agency member said the beauty of the map is its simplicity, because it really is pretty cut and dry, pretty self-explanatory. And then a former DSP said this could be the answer to everyone's prayers. Next slide, please. We're available for questions, and also if you'd like to talk to us about expanding the map in your area, you can reach us at thecollaborativej@gmail.com, and we will be available to answer questions at the end of this full hour presentation after our other partners are able to present today. Thank you for the opportunity to talk to you about the interactive map from the Collaborative for Citizen-Directed Supports of New Jersey.
Well, thank you so much, Amy and Anthony. It's really exciting to see what you guys have developed. As Amy said, we will have time for questions at the end, but feel free to submit your questions now while they're fresh in your mind, and we'll get to those. But now it is my pleasure to introduce Stephen Folsch. Stephen became quadriplegic in 1985, and for the last 14 years, he has been the Director of Disability Studies at Starkloff Disability Institute, designing and teaching several classes in disability studies that focus on the history and social construction of disability. Stephen, take it away. We can't wait to hear about what you're working on.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. I am the Director of Disability Studies at the Starkloff Disability Institute. Our main focus at the Starkloff Disability Institute is to provide help for people with disabilities into gaining meaningful employment and competitive employment. We have a great track record. Almost 85% of the people that enroll in our programs find jobs. We're not a job placement agency, and we're not supported employment. We just deal with all of the considerations that people with disabilities need to deal with when they're looking for a job. And as has been mentioned, I've been a quadriplegic. I'm significantly disabled, and I've been a quadriplegic for 37 years. And one of the greatest problems that I find throughout that 37 years, and it's only gotten worse, is finding personal attendance. And I'm going to be speaking about my ideas that are basically pretty much coincide with the last presentation about MAP. I just want to go to the next slide. I want to play Dr. Kendrick is a very famous gentleman. He's been involved in rehabilitation counseling for 35 years. And also, if anyone's familiar with the sport of wheelchair basketball, he's in the Wheelchair Basketball Hall of Fame. But he just really sums up the importance of the main idea of what I am trying to address, or what Starkloff Disability is trying to address about the importance of personal attendance. We can go ahead and play.
Very well equipped for the Peace Corps in a developing country. So I did the next best thing. I went to state VR and in vocational evaluation, and spent a long time working to teach individuals with disabilities, mostly cognitive, some emotional, how to perform vocationally relevant tasks in the community, to be trained to go into employment, work in the community. And what I learned very quickly in that position was that we were incredibly good at teaching people how to work, but our success rate over time was diminished significantly by the fact that we were abysmal at teaching people how to live outside of work. That most of their employment failures were related to the things that happened after work, before work the next day. And when I brought that to the attention of the regional supervisor of vocational rehabilitation that I worked for, and said, this seems to be a problem, that we are not addressing the primary barrier to our long-term success with our clientele. And his response was, that's not our mission. That's a mental health job. So I decided at that point, I was going to go get enough union cards that I would never again have to work for another idiot that felt that way about that.
Okay, that's good enough. I've got my point. If we can go to the next slide. Thank you very much. I know this was very difficult for you guys. So basically, no, it just seems that attendance services are basically overlooked. Having a job and doing something that you're trained for and that you're interested in, and that's the easy part. But the hard part is getting to work a lot of times. And so it seems to me that we spend millions, if not billions of dollars helping people with disabilities attain the education, find a job, accessible transportation, reducing physical barriers, and that is all wonderful, but it does not mean anything if I can't find the people that I, as a quadriplegic, need to get me out of my bed, into the shower, out of the shower, into the chair. It just seems that consumer directed services is really kind of overlooked. So can we go to the next one? Next slide is how do people with disabilities find attendance? I have started a group of people in the St. Louis area that are professionals with disabilities. I have a judge, I have someone who is a lawyer, I have a CEO. These are all people with disabilities that have important positions, and yet they're still going on to Facebook looking for people. So, and unfortunately, it's really embarrassing, but a lot of people, a lot of professionals are still going on to Craigslist to find people that they're going to be handing over the keys to their apartment or their house, handing over the keys to their car, having access to their credit card, and we're having to hang up flyers in coffee shops and at community colleges, or we're having to go to Craigslist. So I was thinking there's got to be a better way. So can we go to the next slide? And I was thinking, what are some of the impediments for people becoming personal attendants? Well, sure, it's the low pay, but I'm not real sure what they pay on the East Coast, but I'm living in Missouri, so and I'm on a Medicaid independent living waiver, so that pays $12 an hour. Now, who wants to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning, drive 15 miles, work for 2 or 3 hours for $12 an hour? So we have personal attendants have no benefits, they have no paid sick days, or at least in Missouri they don't. We're talking about difficulties in transport. Please excuse me, my apartment is right across from the trash dumpster at my apartment, so. All right, so people, I'm just trying to figure out, or we were trying to figure out how to sweeten the pot, how to make the job more attractive. Next slide, please. And so one of the things is, if you are a personal attendant, basically, a lot of times people with even significant disabilities, like myself, only need maybe say 2.5, 3 hours to get up out of bed and be gone for the rest of the day. So, you know, I've done this, and a couple of other people in my group have done this. They've gotten together and taken out an ad saying, there are two people within a range of 2 miles that need need a personal attendant. So if we can kind of adjust our schedules and be flexible, you could drive out, and instead of driving out for a 3-hour gig, you're gonna be driving out for a 6-hour gig. That could help out. Bonus payments would help out. I sent out bonus payments for my personal attendants for like not missing any days for the month. I also subsidize for transportation. I also help or put the bill or split the bill for say bus passes. But these were all individual approaches, and I was thinking, what else would sweeten the pot and make being a personal attendant more attractive? And I came up with the idea of connecting, not being a personal attendant, not only with pay and easier transportation and more flexibility, but making being a personal attendant an educational opportunity. Next slide, please. And so I have been trying to communicate with the universities in St. Louis, and in the St. Louis area, St. Louis is a very big medical town, and there are several prestigious universities that have large medical schools in them. And I was thinking, hey, wouldn't it be great if we could get all of the universities together and on one system, and say, I believe there's like 100,000 students. So if you're even thinking of 50,000 students, 1% of that would be enough. 1% of those students would be enough to really ameliorate and service the disability community. Okay, next slide, please. So I started working with a class at Washington University. Just basically, I know that the self-direction and consumer directed services, the whole philosophy is that people with disabilities are the best judges of what resources they need and how they need them. So I'm not looking for, much like math, I'm not looking for people to go out and find attendance for them, but I want to be a conduit like MAP. where people can communicate where they live and what they need with the students. And this would also allowing medical students, this would also, when they work with people with disabilities, they would understand the subject of disability much better. Okay, next slide, please. So I worked with the class, and what we did was Start Left Disability Institute created material on what a personal attendant was. And we also even created a 45-minute video that basically featured myself and my personal attendant and what we do in a routine. In a daily routine. And I was, before I started this project, or the reason why we created this video is, to my absolute horror, nobody, not anyone has, or that I know of, has created any kind of video that says this is what a PA can do, or this is what a PA can expect to do. Now, I mean, if you meet one person with a disability, that's it. You meet one person with a disability. PAs have to be flexible, and they have to know that every individual has different needs and different wants and different resources. So we kind of cobbled together like a video that explains what a PA would probably encounter. And I also was able to involve the students in interviewing and collecting information about people with disabilities and on the campus. And the students are in the process of creating presentations that they will address to other student organizations. And we're not only addressing organizations like people in occupational therapy and physical therapy and nursing students, but social work. Anybody that's interested in going into the helping professions. If you want to know about disability, then work as a personal attendant for a year. And our next step, can we go on to the next step? And our next step is having students creating their own videos, talking about their experiences and what they've learned and what they've gotten out of it, and also organizing students with disabilities and contacting the faculty and the administration and telling them what their needs are and what their experiences were, and asking them if they would be interested in connecting being a personal attendant with educational credits, or either being an intern or an extern, or everything's got to be flexible. And but I think that by creating and making being a personal attendant an educational opportunity is a way to enlarge the pool of people that are interested in working as personal attendants. If you guys have, if you go to the next slide, please. If you go to this is just the testimonial of a young lady that came to work for me, who is a psychologist now at BJC, or for Washington University. And she specifically wanted to know what it was like or what people with disabilities needed. The next slide, please. So this is just a little bit about me and just a request for any input or observations this audience might have. And I thank you very much. And once again, if the subject of disability and employment comes up, please consider us at Starkloff Disability Institute. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Stephen. It's really exciting to hear what you've been doing in St. Louis. I was sitting here thinking, when I was an undergrad, I would have been all over this, and I had, friends with disabilities who would have been the same. So really exciting. And I look forward to seeing some of the questions that people are going to submit. So again, don't be shy about sharing your questions, folks. So our final presenters, last but not least, I am very pleased to introduce Jonathan Davis and Colleen Philly. Jonathan is the founder and CEO of TruAlta, which is a learning platform for family caregivers. And Colleen is an assistant program director with Kern County Aging and Adult Services, where she began her career in 1998 as a social worker with the in-home support services program. So Jonathan and Colleen, take us away.
Thank you. Thanks, Molly and Casey for having us today. And thanks to the wonderful presenters, Amy and Anthony and Steve. Those were great presentations. We're excited to share more about our work with Kern County and skill-based training with the self-directed workforce. As Molly said, I'm Jonathan Davis. I'm the founder and CEO of TruAlta.
And I'm Colleen Philly with Aging and Adult Services.
Next slide, please. So quick overview. TruAlta is a skill-based training platform. It's accessible to care providers 24/7 on desktop or any mobile device. It's ADA compliant, written to the grade 5 reading level, and it's personalized. So any direct service provider or caregiver can select the topics relevant to their care situation, what risks they're worried about, what things are keeping them up at night, what skills they need. And those topics sort of determine what you learn in the platform. And it's a scalable solution for training and support. And we're really excited to be partnered with Kern County's IHSS program. We'll go to the next slide, please, and turn it over to Colleen.
So we started using TruAlta towards the end of 2021. As you can see from the chart, we kind of had a slow start, which was due to our end. We had a lack of staffing and some other issues going on. However, in March of 2022, you can see that we started kind of growing with our usage, and we now are about 100 new providers each month. And then as of February of 2023, which is about our 1.5 year mark, we are now up to almost a little over 1,200 providers registered on TruAlta. Next slide, please. So we learned some lessons along the way. We now have in orientation, which our providers are required to attend an orientation. We now started implementing where we are putting more of an importance on self-care for our providers, and TruAlta helps us do that. Because TruAlta does support the self-direction model, we emphasize the importance of using TruAlta as a resource, especially since TruAlta gives our providers the flexibility to watch a short lesson in the middle of the night if they need to, or whenever they have a chance to have a few minutes to themselves. I think that type of flexibility really resonates with our providers. And with that said, on the next slide, Jonathan will go over some of the feedback that he's had.
Thanks, Colleen. On the screen here, we include a little bit of feedback from the providers. So TruAlta has a bit of a social element where providers can comment on modules. Some also participate in a forum or join a support group. And we like these comments because they sort of speak to the range of different training that we think supports the self-directed workforce, not just the skills. So for example, moving and transferring or managing a chronic condition, but also meaningful activities to do together, caregiver wellness. So important to sort of keeping self-directed providers in their roles. And I won't read them all, maybe verbatim. You know, the first quote here is about just watching a module on good morning stretches. So it's about things you can do together. It's and the second one, maybe I'll read that because it sort of hits home for us as we develop the program and think about more ways that we can help self-directed caregivers and unpaid family members. This segment made me cry because my brother, whom I take care of, is paralyzed on half his body and he gets angry all the time with me. I will take this page and read it over and over, maybe with him too. I like this segment. And that's in response to a module we made about caregiver anger and frustration, which we know, building resilience, keeping sort of some of these self-directed providers able to, preventing them from burning out is so important. And so much of the content focuses on that. The last piece of feedback we included in here is just about the ideas. So we have a lot of content around meaningful activities to do together, to pass the time, to spend meaningful time together. And we have something called outdoor activities to enjoy and provide a lot of tips that our caregivers in Kern County really love and have provided excellent feedback. So I think with that's the end of our quick overview. We welcome questions from the group. Thanks so much for giving us the time to present, and thank you, Colleen.
Wonderful. Well, it's a pleasure to get to spend some time really letting people ask questions about all these great ideas and approaches. And, we're so appreciative to everybody who spoke. Jonathan and Colleen, thank you for covering that last portion. So let me dive into some questions, and I'll start by noting I am seeing a couple comments coming in, people noting, what might be additional good strategies for handling workforce issues. And we appreciate and welcome seeing those. I'm going to focus on questions that our speakers can help respond to. I know all of our speakers would probably love to increase pay wages, for instance, but that might not be within our power. But so I'll stick to some of the questions you guys can speak to. So for the Collaborative for Citizen-Directed Supports New Jersey and the MAP, we had a couple questions. One is it possible for support brokers to be included on the MAP?
Yes, there actually are some on there now, Molly. And it's free for them to use. So they can use it as a tool to connect to people that are already listed on the MAP, but they could also use it to work with people that they're that are requesting or needing supports, and they can help them create a listing as well. And then they can post for other like self-directed employees that they might know of or be working with. They can encourage them to post their own listing on the MAP as well.
Great. And then another question, how do we contact SDEs or self-directed employers? There is no contact info on the MAP.
So a self-directed employee would be a person that's walking that icon. And so when you open up that icon, it should have that person's contact information. Generally speaking, it's an email for privacy purposes. We don't advertise a phone number, but if you're having trouble connecting to that person, we usually do have the phone number on the behind the scenes. And so if for some reason they're not responsive emailing, you can always reach out to us via email and we can help to make that connection. But they should be listed on there under a person walking icon.
Great. I'll do one more question for you and then we'll move on, spread it around a little bit. But if for somebody who is self-directing and wants to see this in their state, what can they do next?
I would say to contact the collaborative at thecollaborativeny@gmail.com. We are looking as part of our expansion plan for winning the Administration for Community Living's Blazing New Trails contest. Part of that is to expand into other states. And so we're open to connecting with other states and other organizations that want to bring this to their communities and showing them how to do it. So
Great.
Contact us. Yeah.
Great. Stephen, some questions for you that are coming up. One is, this is, a really great model. And what if somebody is wanting to partner with a university in their state? What has it taken to kind of get this started? How hard was it to get a professor or administrators or the appropriate people on board to get you in the door to start doing this work?
Well, you can, what I did is, I really tried to involve myself with students with disabilities, because it's so very important for people with disabilities to advocate for themselves. But I mean, now there are probably almost every major university has a program for students with disabilities, or they have disability studies. You could contact, looking for what we did is look for organizations, not necessarily that are directed toward medicine, but actually just service organizations, and contact them. I believe there's usually whether it be religious or some other kind of ideology, a lot of times there are community service organizations. I would contact them, but I think the best would be to contact or get to know people from your local Center for Independent Living and talk to them first, so you can identify who the community leaders in the disability community are.
That's great. That's great. Another question is, the video you made sounds amazing to describe the work the support that you received, that you made with your attendant. What did it take to get that video made, and what would you recommend to make one like that for
Well,
themselves?
it took $400 first. I basically shut my mouth off because I thought I could cobble together different videos that would show what a day of the life of just a quadriplegic is, like getting up, and I really couldn't find anything. So if anybody knows of anything, I contacted a lot of advocacy organizations, and everybody seems to think, yeah, Steve, that seems like a really good idea. Good luck with that, and everybody, for such a good idea, everybody is really enthusiastic, but they don't want to get involved. But getting back to it, basically took a friend that was a professional videographer, and it took me just dropping any kind of any kind of sense of privacy, like this is what I do every morning. And it took basically talking to my personal attendant, and we just kind of rehearsed what do we want to talk about. But that was probably simple, and it was I got a lot of really positive feedback from the students who viewed that video.
That's great. One more question for you, Stephen, before I move us on and stop putting you on the spot. But I'm seeing a question about people wondering how reliable students have been, knowing how busy student schedules can be observed.
I've just discovered time is the biggest impediment for undergraduate students. So it's location. I live right next to the Cardinal Stadium downtown. So I in my wheelchair, within 20 minutes, I can go to St. Louis University, Washington University, where there's big schools around. So I think we're going to really try and focus on graduate students that have a little bit more time, or actually another good suggestion is focusing on community colleges where people are taking 3-4 years to get their degrees, and so they're not under so much time constraint. That's what I've really learned, is that I think students at community colleges 2-year schools. Am I saying that right, or do they call them differently? But just because usually somebody's going to a community college for a reason, because they don't have the time and the money to commit completely to a university. So they're a little bit more flexible. But don't rule out anything.
That's good advice. Well, switching gears back to Jonathan and Colleen. One question is, do you work with self-directed employers to identify what some of the necessary training topics might be that people are looking for?
Yeah, that's a great question. We do. So the best sort of source for our content roadmap are our users, both our partner organizations, as well as the providers that are using the platform. I think in some cases there's local content, specific to say this state's self-direction program. And our platform has the ability for Colleen in California could upload her own local content. So it might be specific to what's going on in her state. But more broadly, if folks say, hey, I need, there's a particular topic that would really help me, then we take that to our content team and put it on the roadmap. And then, we'll release it in the next few months.
Great. And follow-up question, how are you measuring the success of the training and the outcomes of how useful this has been?
Another great question. So we measure it in a few ways. We're at Tralta, we're an evidence-based platform. We went through sort of peer-reviewed publications and things like that. So we're pretty obsessed with our outcomes and with making sure that we're measuring success. So there's a few measures. We look at enrollment in the platform. We look at engagement with the content. And then we look at what providers are saying. So self-reported outcomes, we'll send surveys out to the providers and say, what's working. And a couple, in a recent survey with Colleen's crowd in Kern County, a few of the highlights that came out, 100% said they'd recommend Tralta's training to their peers. 94% agreed or strongly agreed that Tralta helped prepare them to provide quality care. And 85% said that strongly agree that they're more likely to stay in their role as a provider after using Tralta's training platform. So those are the type of outcomes we look for and how we measure them, both through the system and self-reported.
Great, super helpful. I see we have another follow-up question for Amy and Anthony. How is vetting and liability addressed for the MAP? Is there an oversight of concerns related to a provider?
Can you repeat that, please, Molly? Vetting and
Yes. How do you address vetting and liability for the MAP? Specifically, is there any oversight for concerns related to any specific provider?
well, we are essentially just the bridge connecting people that need services to those that can provide the services. So we're not the hiring organization. We're just a connector. We're just a bridge. So essentially we don't are not susceptible to liability in that capacity because we're very clear in the form. And when a person signs up, we're really just connecting people that use the services. But in New Jersey, and I'm assuming in other states as well, in order to become a direct support professional and a self-directed employee, you have to go through a background check, fingerprinting, and things of that nature, and drug testing as well. And so that's part of the hiring process, that a person who is hiring their own staff would either use a support broker to assist them with that, or hopefully be informed, or even connect with their support coordinator on the process on how that would work for them.
Great, that makes perfect sense. Another follow-up question for Stephen. Has tapping high school students, including high school students with disabilities, ever been considered to provide self-direction support and services as direct support workers?
You know what? That I've never considered that. I am ashamed of myself. That I would be kind of concerned about working with anybody under 18. But no, no. Thank you very much to whoever asked me that question. That was something sitting right under my nose. I think that's a great suggestion.
Wonderful. That's why it's so good for all of us to get together, right? We
Mhm.
point out different ways of looking at these problems. Oh, and somebody just submitted a comment. We have a program in New Hampshire working with high school students through the CTE centers. So really interesting to hear as well. So I'm seeing the questions slow down a little bit. So if you have further questions, now is your moment. But I will pause for a second and see, maybe our speakers might have questions for each other. I don't know if you have any follow-up questions for each other.
Well, I was wondering about MAP. How much because that's basically the first question I get hit with is, how much is this gonna cost? And how many people do we need to maintain this this program?
Stephen, when you're asking how much does it cost, do you mean to implement the map within your organization or your area, or to utilize the map as a person requesting supports or offering
Oh,
support?
to implement it, like how much does the program cost and how many man hours?
Well, the collaborative is run by a team of volunteers. And so it did take a little bit of manpower to get it up and running, but it does not take as much manpower to sustain it. And that's something like cost-wise, we haven't quite established in our expansion plan, to be quite honest with you. So that's something that we're in the process of figuring out, if we were to implement it in another state, what that would look like. So I don't have a complete answer for you on that at this time, but I did get your contact information from ASD, because we'd love to connect with you as well.
That's great.
We'll be in touch, yeah.
Because I do know that there are programs out there, but it's like $5,000 up front and $1,000 a year for service. But I mean, also it's like, who's gonna run it? Who's gonna maintain it?
Right.
So,
We do, for maintenance, we have a person that updates the map once a week for new requests that have come in. And then the direct support professional agencies are responsible for maintaining their listings on their own. So we can pull them off and take them off once a week, with one person essentially mans the map behind the scenes. And then Anthony, our self-advocate, is a person that helps to answer questions for people that are using the map itself.
We've had a few more comments and questions come in that I can share. Just a couple folks sharing thoughts about high school students that comment. One comment said, we allow minors in Minnesota. We have many families with siblings of persons with disabilities who have had a lot of experience supporting their siblings. Another comment, Colorado approved the hiring of individuals 16 and above based on feedback from consumer-directed clients. And here's a question for you, Amy. Any thoughts on how to get more people on the map that are SDEs? How do we get the word out?
That's a great question. So through the community roundtables that we've held, some of the solutions that have come up have actually ideas that Stephen himself had shared in his presentation. So for us to promote and advertise the map in public spaces, but we do a lot of presentations within the state, with, you know, locally, statewide and nationwide. So the news and the information about the map is really getting out there. We also have word of mouth sharing, so people share that as a resources, and we have the support within the state through the Division of Developmental Disabilities that's been really good about sharing the map as a resource as well. And so we hope that that will continue to attract more self-directed employees, but that is an area of opportunity that we've been able to identify that we could probably do better at and expand on that as well. So I should mention the map is a work in progress. And so the questions we hear today and the feedback that we get, we constantly come back together as a team and hold future community roundtables where we will work to implement the changes and suggestions that have arisen throughout different workshops and webinars that we attend and that we learn from, especially in this environment where people outside of New Jersey are getting us to think about different ways that the map could be utilized or improved as well. So we appreciate your feedback and questions on this.
Great. Jonathan, a quick follow-up question for you. How is access to broadband or devices addressed when rolling out the program?
Yeah, that's a great question. We do have a number of sort of rural partners or partners maybe with not as much internet access. You know, Trulta is an online platform, so a lot of the content is online. What we do for some of our clients is we have printed resources. So there's a subset of the material that's printed and available offline for folks that maybe don't have internet access.
That makes perfect sense. Another follow-up question for you is, can people take part in your portal for free, or is there an associated cost to use the service?
So the caregiver or provider doesn't pay. We support family and self-directed caregivers sort of across the country, and none of those caregivers pay, but an organization, so for example, in this case, the county invested in the program, and then it's free for all of the providers.
Great, great. I'm seeing a couple interesting comments come in, so I'll just share those. We've got 2 minutes left, so last minute for your questions. Really appreciate everybody for asking such great questions. And really kudos to our speakers for your ingenuity, creativity in dealing with a really complex, challenging issue. Just some further comments about this high school idea is really striking a chord. Minnesota also had a bill that would allow high school juniors and seniors to earn up to 2 elective credits for working in the caring profession. And then I think Casey's going to share this for everybody in the chat, but somebody has shared the U.S. Senate Committee on Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions are asking for comments on the healthcare workforce shortages. They need to hear from us. And there's a link that we'll share. So I think if you're here, you care about this issue, and it sounds like a great way to get involved. Let me see. All right, I'm not seeing any other questions for our speakers, so I just want to thank you again. This session was recorded, so you can reference it again. And I know our speakers are interested in hearing further from folks who might have additional questions or comments. But thank you, everybody, to our speakers and to everybody who attended. It's been a wonderful discussion. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.